My next interview is a lovely chap. He was on the show actually not that long ago, about a month ago. His name is Mike Robbins, and I chose a section that touched me very deeply, a section in his book where he talks about an exercise that he did called If You Really, Really Knew Me, and he explains exactly what that's about, and it's coming right up.
The exercise is based on, so this is about really speaking our truth and getting real and vulnerable, and the metaphor is that of an iceberg. So that you and I and all of us are like icebergs, and what we know about icebergs is just the tip of the iceberg, as we like to say, pops up above the surface of the water. Mm-hmm. The rest of it is down below the waterline. We can't see it. And the majority of the iceberg is down there, and I think that's how we are as human beings. So I use that metaphor in workshops and in the book, and then the exercise is a really powerful one that I do with my coaching clients. I do when I'm speaking in workshops. I break people into small groups, and you sit around in a circle or one-on-one with people, and each person has a minute or two to repeat the phrase, if you really knew me. Mm-hmm. And in the process, the invitation, although there's no expectation that you have to say anything, is that you lower your waterline and get real and get vulnerable. So I'll share a little of what I wrote in the book. I know you asked me to do that, mm-hmm. and I'm happy to. Mm-hmm. If we were all sitting around in a circle doing this exercise together. Mm-hmm. And I say, if you really knew me, you'd know that as excited and honored as I am to be writing this book, talking about authenticity and working with people to be more real and fulfilled in their lives, it's incredibly challenging and scary for me to do this. I doubt myself all the time and sometimes think I don't really know what the heck I'm talking about. Even worse, I'm constantly worried that people will see right through me and will find out that I actually struggle big time to practice what I teach, and that many aspects of my life, my work, and my relationships aren't filled with authenticity, appreciation, or fulfillment as much as I'd like them to be.
Yeah, that's so nice. And, I read that yesterday in my kitchen. I'm looking out to sea, and I read this, and I started to cry. It was absolutely hopeless, and I thought, well, if somebody comes to the door now, I'll just... And, by the time I got to the end, I have to say, because then you say, if you really, really knew me, and then you say, if you really, really, really knew me. And by the time I got to the end of that part, I just thought, if somebody comes to the door, I don't care if he's come to read the electric meter, I'm going to sit him down, tie him to the chair, and say, listen to this!
Yes. Well, and now let me ask you, though, when you read that and it touched you in the way that it did, what was it about that spoke to you?
Well, I tell you what, funnily enough, let's forget we're on the radio for a minute, and I'll tell you, I've got a friend at the moment who's in, and I say in England to my radio listeners because I'm in Wales. I know you mentioned England earlier on, so
sorry, I apologize.
Oh, he is in England, and he's an alcoholic, and he has phases of drinking and phases of, not drinking at all.
Yes.
And at the minute, he's going through a drinking phase, and he phones me up when he's drinking, and his gremlin pays for the call, all of it. I'm no good. And he, comes out with all this drivel. I'm no good. Who'd want me? Why do you want to employ? Blah, 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 blah. And so when I read this, if you really, really knew me, I wanted to say to him, if you really knew me, I'm not as wonderful as you think. He always says I'm a performer. I get up on stage. I'm not nervous. And then I wanted to hear what he would say.
Yeah.
If you really knew me, I'm scared to death of going through my life all on my own. Mm. And that's why I drink. Or I don't know, who knows what he'd say. I don't know.
Mandy, I appreciate you sharing that. And the thing about, why I shared this in the book, it was scary for me to put. It's in a book now that's out to the world. There you are in Wales reading this. And, we often don't want to share some of this intimate, personal, vulnerable stuff about ourselves because we're worried that people will think things about us or not respect us or not like us. And what I find is that when we're willing to be real, what happens is often the opposite of what we think. That people then end up trusting us, respecting us, admiring us. And that's not why we do it. That's not why I didn't write that in there so people would think, oh boy, he's so great and authentic. No, but there's this way that when we get real, it's so engaging, it's so connecting, it's so bonding, and it's so liberating because we're all walking around carrying stuff that we're afraid for people to know, that we, trying to do stuff. And it may be, in the case of your friend, and I've talked to many people who have drinking problems or drug problems or, and most recovering addicts will tell you that, look, it's not about the drugs and alcohol. it's really about the emotions that they weren't able to or aren't able to address. And even if someone stops drinking, I write about this actually in the book, or stops using drugs or whatever, food or other things that we get ourselves addicted to, we can take that substance away, but if we're not willing to deal with what's underneath it, something else will replace it, or the addiction will come back. Because it never is really about that thing, and this is not just about addiction and such, but it's really about life, and that when we're able to sit with each other, and if you and your friend could do that, and people can do this with their spouse or the people that their kids or their people they work with, and I've done this exercise in corporations, I've done it with couples, I've done it with teenagers, you name it. It's amazing what happens when we get real.
Yes, as you say, it's very touching. And one of the quotes she said is Mother Teresa, "Honesty and transparency make you vulnerable. Be honest and transparent anyway."
Absolutely.
That's
we waste so much time and energy, Mandy, I think, in life trying to protect ourselves. And look, I understand. We've all been hurt, some of us significantly. But protecting ourselves and building walls up around so we don't get hurt is really counterproductive in so many ways. Because A, I don't know if you've noticed, we still get hurt anyway. And B, we end up missing out on so many incredible opportunities for connection, for love, for communication, for authenticity, because we're too busy protecting for when we might get hurt. And, law of attraction says, and you talked about metaphysics earlier, whatever we focus on, we'll get. So the more we focus on not getting hurt, not getting disappointed, not getting fill in the blank, we get that. So, look, when we're open, when we're honest, as Mother Teresa says, we'll be vulnerable. And there will be moments in life we'll get our feelings hurt or we'll get disappointed, but that's going to happen anyway. That's just part of life. But if we just lived with our heart fully wide open and we lived out loud, out there, vulnerable, expressed, here I am, take me or leave me, is everyone going to like you and like that and be okay with it? Probably not, but who cares?
Who cares? Absolutely.
And then, you are who you are.
Yeah, you are.
And there's another great book from the 70s called You Don't Have to Rehearse to Be Yourself.
Yeah. Oh, gosh, isn't that great?
Yeah.
The last principle, Principle 5, celebrate who we are.
Well, 4 is be bold, and 5 is to celebrate who you are. And that's really the key of all of this is, I'll just share this briefly, and I know we're almost out of time. The best piece of advice I got when I was about to have my first daughter, Samantha, Michelle, my wife was pregnant with Samantha, was from a mentor of mine who said to me, listen, Mike, you got 2 jobs with your daughter. The first job is to teach her how to be in the world. And even though that's going to take a lot of time and effort and energy, and that's actually the easy one, the second job is the most important one, and that's teach her how to love herself. And I looked at him and I said, wow, how do I do that? And he said, I'm not sure, but I think the way to do that is to love yourself and let her see that.
Oh.
And I think that's true whether we're parents or not, that the goal in life, the best way we can impact and influence other people and make a difference in our own life is to really love ourselves. And when we do that and we really celebrate and appreciate who we are, being authentic, being bold, speaking our truth, knowing ourselves, transforming our fear, all that stuff actually becomes way easier.